It's Anna from Inksvilla here, and I have been having a great conversation today with a brilliant colleague from New Zealand called Dennis Kiberev. Hopefully, I'm saying his name right. And we've been chatting about how hard it is to pin down a brand personality and how useful brand archetypes are. So, I was talking him through how I would run a typical brand archetypes workshop, and I thought this would be quite a useful video and useful information to share with the wider Inkspiller blog readership. So whether you're a creative agency or you're running an innovative business, or even if you're just a one-woman band, pinning down, being able to express your brand personality is super, super important. I bang on about all this all the time, and you'll find on the blog, I'll put a link to it in this post, a whole series about brand archetypes and how useful they are for doing this. So brand archetypes, what are they? Well, they've been around they can be traced back to ancient Greece. So I'm sure my history is not amazing, but I think that's at least 1,000 years. And the idea of them is that throughout all of our stories, throughout human history, and certainly with modern culture throughout movies, there's certain characters pop up time and time again. And the classic hero, the magician, the mother and caregiver. These are characters that we all recognise and all feel familiar. And the theory of brand using archetypes in branding is that by evoking a particular archetype through your consciously using an archetype in your brand, you'll feel instantly familiar to customers because these are characters we all know and love. So by evoking those, then you instantly feel familiar, you're likable, you're trustworthy, all of that important stuff. But that's from your point of view, but certainly if you're a creative agency creating brands for other people, or as I do, creating brand voice guidelines, tone of voice, brand personalities, creating copy content, understanding your clients' archetypes and brand archetypes, it's so important. I find it invaluable because it just means I can never go off track. And as I was saying to Dennis earlier, the other issue is that often I make assumptions about who I believe a company is or what their personality is. And when we do this archetypes exercise, I realise just how wrong I usually am. They're always full of surprises. So let me just skip through how I would run. Skip to how I would run a brand archetypes workshop. So you want to get together. So if it's your company, you want to get together the key people. If you're doing this for a client, the same thing. I've run this in a workshop with 16 people, which was really, really tough actually. And it didn't go, this was a kind of as it was sprung on me at the last minute. It didn't go massively well. I would suggest 10 is an optimum number, but you could do it with 16 people. So I'll explain how that might work. And the resource I used, I should have mentioned, is the Archetypes in Branding. These are the cards, and I'll put a link to that. I just bought it off Amazon, but you can buy it direct from the company themselves. If Dennis is based in New Zealand, so he had to order his direct from Archetypes in Branding, and this is a system that was developed by a designer, I think he's called Joshua Chen, and a brand strategist called Margaret Hartwell, who I massively respect. And although that most archetypal systems say there are 12 core archetypes, they've broken this down into 60. So you have 60 cards here you can use in your workshop. And then some of them seem a little bit repetitive, I must be honest, but I definitely see that the benefit in breaking, because human personalities are complex, characters are complex. So breaking this down into a subset of 60 does make sense. So the way that I would run the workshop is, first of all, explain the value of archetypes and why you're doing it. That's always important in any workshop. Then split everyone into groups, and personally I would divide the cards up between, so the yellow cards in the deck, you'll see there, the fundamental archetypes have subsets. So under caregiver, it's split into angel, guardian, healer, Samaritan. Let me find another fundamental archetype. So here we go. Innocent, great. So innocent, another fundamental archetype that's split up into child, dreamer, idealist, and muse. So I would then make sure that every group has one subset of one of these core archetypes, just so that you're getting a good spread of personalities, because there will definitely be some core archetypes that your brand or your customer brand is not. So that just helps you kind of weed those out quite quickly doing it that way. I will put detailed instructions under the blog, as this is a kind of a slight waffle. I just really want to give you the big picture of how you run this workshop. So the idea is you want to find out what the authentic archetype is. So you don't want typically the leader of the company has a really strong idea of what the brand personality should be, but a company isn't just made up of one person, it's a collective. So you need everybody's input. That's why I would split everyone up, give everyone their own pile and get them to form their own opinions before they start to share with the group. And then once everyone's had a chance to separate the cards you've given them into yes, no, or maybe. First, if there's very few people in the workshop, they'll end up with a stack of cards like this. So the best thing to do is just look at the images first as opposed to the descriptions, just to kind of move through it a little faster. But once you've got the yes and maybes, you can read the descriptions on the back and then sift them into a definite yes pile. Then you want to get people pairing with someone else and sharing their findings and seeing if they can see some themes with their archetypes. And then either you're going to get them to feed back to the group as a whole, get everyone to feed back to each other, or you'll want to maybe give everyone a chance to look through all the archetypes, and that's really up to you. And the idea is, by the end of the session, once everyone's looking at all the archetypes, you will find 3. Now, the interesting thing is that what tends to happen is that everybody will choose archetypes that reflects what you do or what they do, which is fine because what you do is part of who you are. But actually, often the most interesting archetypes are those which are nothing to do with what you do, those which are purely your personality, purely your way of doing things, because that's often, especially in the services industries, consulting and creative industries, those are how you do things. Your actual personality is often the biggest differentiator you have. So that once you've got your 3 cards, one will generally be around what you do, the others will be more around how you do it. And as I said, I recommend buying the Archetypes in Branding book. So once you've got your 3, you'll be able to delve into that book, understand more about those archetypes and how you can then use them to build a deeper relation with customers, seem more familiar, create visuals, create a brand voice, and use archetypes really to help you build a standout brand. And also you can also delve into, I've got more information on that in our archetype series on links for the blog, how we use them typically to use archetypes to help people express their unique difference. And below this post I'll also add more detailed instructions on how to run this exercise, as well as some information on some common pitfalls. So I hope that was helpful, and please let me know, because I adore archetypes. I love working with them. I adore this set, and I'd love to spread the language of archetypes further. See you in the next video.